Since 2006, Mattel, Disney, and Pixar have been crafting one of the most comprehensive toy lines ever made based on the Cars franchise. And in this series, I'm breaking down every single diecast in it. Hello everybody, and welcome back to Disney Cars Diecast History. Today, I'm going to be breaking down the full history of every single Doc Hudson diecast from 2006 to April of 2025. It's no doubt Doc is one of the most impactful characters in the entire Cars series. The grumpy but caring doctor of Radiator Springs, who has a mysterious past as the famous Piston Cup racer, the fabulous Hudson Hornet, Doc Hudson goes on to befriend Lightning McQueen and become his crew chief and mentor. Unfortunately, Doc's actor, the legendary Paul Newman, passed away a few years after the first Cars movie came out, so out of respect, it was decided to have Doc pass away in-universe as well. This, of course, means that Doc doesn't have as many appearances as most other Cars characters. And for the diecast line, this means that he doesn't have as many diecasts as some of his Radiator Springs contemporaries, with nearly all of his releases being based on the first film, with just a few exceptions. For today's episode, we're going to be covering every single Doc diecast in order of release, but before we do, I want to give a huge shout out to these wonderful people right here on screen who provided me their own footage of Docs that I was missing. Huge thank you, as always, you guys are the absolute best. And if this is your first time ever watching Diecast History, I'd suggest pausing the screen right here to familiarize yourself with this. This is the template that I use for every single item I discuss. But with all that out of the way, let's turn the clock all the way back to 2006. The original Doc Hudson diecast was released as part of the initial Cars diecast lineup in 2006. This Doc continues to be the main variant of the character released through to this day, and he certainly holds up pretty well. As you can see, they did a pretty good job with getting Doc's likeness right out of the gate, with both his facial expression and model being pretty character accurate. And while this item is pretty accurate to the character, there are a few things that should be noted about it. Up first, Doc's Hudson Hornet logos on his back are sculpted into the diecast, but not printed on. Nearly every other variant of Doc, starting with the new variants of him released in 2007, had this printing, but still, to this day, the original Doc is missing it. Another common piece of criticism for this item is in regards to the grille. While Doc's grille is pretty cleverly constructed, being a chrome piece that's actually connected to his base, many fans have complained that it isn't as detailed as it could be, as it's all just one big silver piece that doesn't include paint detailing for the parts of Doc's grille that aren't silver in the movie. This is a detail that persists on nearly every Doc diecast. But of course, altogether, the original Doc Hudson diecast still looks pretty great. And it's still the Doc Hudson we're getting in the diecast line to this day. There have been no changes or updates made to him, unlike many of the other Cars characters, so if you buy a Doc now, you'll have an item pretty similar to his original release, except for the fact that Cars diecasts are now made in Thailand, giving them some visual differences from past items. Doc has been released nearly every year of the Cars diecast line, just skipping over 2011 and 2012 where only Cars 2 items were made. Sometimes he's out on the main line, sometimes he's out in side series, but no matter what, it's never too hard to get your hands on a Doc Hudson. In 2007, we'd get our first ever Doc variant, and a very appropriate one at that, the fabulous Hudson Hornet. Doc's racing persona, from his days in the Piston Cup, is completely decked out with Hudson Hornet logos, the number 51, and bold claims that he has twin horsepower. This Doc was the first to print the correct Hudson Hornet logos on his back as well, but when he first released in 2007, he actually had an error of his own. This Doc was originally released with white wheels instead of the correct red racing wheels. This mistake is also present on his character artwork, perhaps that's why it happened on the diecast. But luckily, this was actually fixed before the end of the year, and has become the norm ever since. My Doc just so happens to be a very early one, so he still has the white wheels. Despite this mistake being corrected on the diecast, it never has been on the artwork. Every release of this item has had the incorrect silver wheels image, despite a corrected red wheel image also existing. While he was a pretty frequent release back in the day, we haven't seen this diecast out since 2016 when he was strangely named Fabulous Doc Hudson. In 2017, when Cars 3 released, we would receive a new Hudson Hornet variant, which has been the only Hudson Hornet variant we've gotten since. This one hasn't come back. The following year, we would get two new Doc diecasts. Up first, a very fitting next one to get, Pit Crew member Fabulous Hudson Hornet. This item is basically the same as the Hudson Hornet, but now with a non-removable headset accessory attached to him. He would be released as a single in 2008 and 2009. In 2015, this dock would be re-released as a deluxe, with a new big plastic stand accessory. And while the dock included is the same as his original release, the new stand accessory makes this count as its own separate variant, so we'll get back to it later. Also released in 2008 was Dirt Track Doc Hudson, a 3-pack exclusive that's only ever been released in this 2008 3-pack, and has kind of fallen into obscurity nowadays. This dock is simply a regular old Doc Hudson diecast, but with the red Hudson Hornet wheels, based on the scene where Doc tries to race again, wearing his old racing wheels. This dock continues to use the exact same expression we've seen on all variants of him so far. If you've seen my other episodes of the series, you'll know that Cars getting a new expression for every variant wasn't really a thing done in the first few years of the Cars diecast line. 2009 would start to diversify the Doc Hudson lineup, with two variants for the brand new lenticular line. This series of cars featured cars with lenticular eyes, meaning that they would look different depending on how you held them. These are pretty heavily disliked by Cars fans, and only lasted 2 years. 2009 lenticulars had an opening and closing eye gimmick. The Fabulous Hudson Hornet was number 10 in the 2009 series, and regular Doc Hudson was number 11. 2009 would give us our first ever lineup of holiday cars, including Decked Out Doc Hudson. Based on the book Mater Saves Christmas, this dock is our first dock with a new expression, a bit happier than the other ones. He also comes with a Santa hat and a wreath attached to his grille, and uniquely colored wheels. It should be noted that this is the only Doc Hudson diecast not based on a design from the movies. While it's pretty common for us to get variants of the Radiator Springs characters based on Toyline exclusive expanded universe concepts, this was something that really started to take off in the mid-2010s, meaning that the toy lines take place after Cars 2, at a point after Doc's death, so he isn't included. Decked Out Doc is a really nice and unique item, who was released a few times over the years, and currently he's been out in the Wintertime Cruiser series, which has been re-released annually every year since 2021. Love them or hate them, the lenticulars played a huge role in the 2010 Cars diecast line, now being updated to give characters two facial expressions instead of opening and closing eyes. Because of this, nearly every 2009 lenticular was brought back for 2010 and given new facial expressions. Number 10 in the 2010 series was the new second version of the Fabulous Hudson Hornet, with eyes that looked off to the left and right. And while lenticulars didn't continue past 2010, this dock was one of a select few brought back for a special holiday wave of lenticulars in 2014. Number 11 in the line would be a new lenticular version of regular Doc Hudson, complete with a new set of two eye expressions. The final Doc lenticular was number 33 in the 2010 line, the first and only lenticular variant of Pit Crew member Fabulous Hudson Hornet. With a slightly different, more stern expression than the other two Docs, he was number 33 in the 2010 line. 2010 would also see the launch of the Color Changers line, plastic cars that change color when placed in hot or cold water. Doc stays his regular blue in warm water, but changes to black in cold water. In 2010, he was available as a single and also in a 2-pack with Yellow Ramon. Or I guess, yellow to red Ramon. This color changer would be brought back in 2016. In 2011, Cars 2 released, and with it came the information that Doc had died at some point between the two films. From this point onwards, new Doc variants would become incredibly infrequent as the character was no longer appearing in new Cars content. It would take until 2014 for the next dock to be released, but this one is a bit of a special case. In 2013, the Disney parks started releasing an exclusive diecast line where the Cars characters were reimagined as Star Wars characters. These are actually made by the Disney Parks Company and not Mattel, but they're 1/55 scale and made to be compatible, so a lot of collectors kinda grandfather them in. Doc would join the line in its second wave in 2014, and who was he playing? Well, say hello there to Doc Hudson as Obi-Wan Kenobi. A perfect choice for Doc, playing the wise old mentor character. Doc as Obi-Wan came with his Jedi robes printed onto him, and had a plastic lightsaber accessory attached to his side. He was released exclusively in a 2-pack with Mater as Darth Vader, who was a re-release from 2013. After 5 years of not receiving any new variants in the Mattel Cars diecast line, Doc would return with 2 new ones in 2015. Our first Doc diecast is one where, well, Doc is actually the exact same diecast. As I mentioned earlier, this year saw the release of Fabulous Doc Hudson with Stand. While the diecast included is just a re-release of the regular old pit crew member Fabulous Hudson Hornet, the accessory is what makes this diecast, and is what also made this diecast a deluxe. Doc comes with an incredibly impressive, exquisitely molded plastic war wagon, with its own moving wheels, a ramp, and even some TV monitors molded into the side. This is easily one of the most impressive accessories ever made for the Cars diecast line, and it really counts as its own item separate from the original pit crew Hudson Hornet. If you need more proof of that, look no further than the price. While the original pit crew member Hudson Hornet isn't all that expensive, this version with the stand goes for nearly $100 online. A lot of fans really want to get their hands on this item because it's an incredible and incredibly useful accessory. 2015 would see the launch of the Precision series, a brand new line of Cars diecasts more detailed than ever, aimed at adult collectors. With more accurate molds, more details, rubber tires, and openable parts, the Precision series has given us some of the most definitive versions of the Radiator Springs characters we all know and love. Doc would be a part of the line's first wave in late 2015, alongside Lightning McQueen and Ramon. Like all Precision Series cars, Doc was given a brand new, more accurate mold made from the ground up specifically for this release, in addition to rubber tires and an additional feature. In Doc's case, he has an opening hood that reveals his twin horsepower engines. While Doc doesn't look all that different from his original diecast, at least compared to some other Precision Series items which are very different from the originals, he was still given a lot more detail than his original release. With more printing on his tires, more detailed chrome wheels, a noticeable silver outline around both of his eyes, and finally, a more detailed grille, and the correct Hudson Hornet logos printed onto the back. 2 of the most notable exclusions on the original Doc diecast finally being fixed for this release. In the summer of 2016, at that year's San Diego Comic-Con, Mattel released an exclusive Precision Series item made to help promote the toy line. Specifically, this was a Precision Series variant of the Fabulous Hudson Hornet. This item is simply a repaint of the single Precision Series Doc Hudson, but now painted to be the Fabulous Hudson Hornet. And while the mold for the diecast is reused, the sculpt for the wheels is actually different, accurately portraying Doc's racing wheels instead of his casual ones. Interestingly, this item is officially called Precision Series Dirt Track Fabulous Hudson Hornet, and that's because he has a dirty overspray around his rims and wheels. This was the first time a design choice like this was done for a Hudson Hornet diecast, and it would later be reused for the Dirt Track Fabulous Hudson Hornet released for Cars 3. But easily one of the coolest things about this item is the exclusive box that he came in, based on the exhibit showcasing his piston cups in the Hudson Hornet Racing Museum, complete with the newspapers on the wall making up another part of the box. And yes, these piston cup accessories are removable. They even have the years Doc won printed on them, just like in the series. While most Precision Series singles are pretty sought after online following the discontinuation of the line, the Hudson Hornet is, of course, one of the rarest ones due to its Comic-Con exclusivity. In 2016, the Wheel Action Drivers launched, a line of plastic cars that had special features when you push down on their back wheels. Each item in this line would have their front wheels pop out and also have some sort of additional feature. In the case of Doc, when you push down on his back wheels, the front ones popped out and his mouth opened and closed, meaning that you could turn Doc Hudson into Talk Hudson. Thank you, I'll be here all night. In 2017, Cars 3 released, and Doc Hudson's legacy and impact was a major aspect of the film. We even got to see Doc again in some new flashback sequences, which cleverly used audio from Paul Newman that was cut from the first Cars movie, allowing Doc to have a few new voice lines. Apparently, Paul Newman would come in and just talk about racing all the time in the booth, and they were able to use all of this audio he recorded back then to give Doc some new lines for Cars 3. It's incredibly clever and really sweet. To coincide with Doc's return, we got a brand new diecast of him pretty early on into the 2017 Cars 3 lineup, that being Dirt Track Fabulous Hudson Hornet. Based on the scene where we see Doc racing on a dirt track in the 50s Piston Cup, this item is basically identical to the original Fabulous Hudson Hornet diecast, but with one notable change. He has dirt detailing printed around his rims. This is a design choice we first saw on the Comic-Con exclusive Precision Series Hudson Hornet, and now it has its own dedicated variant in the diecast line to represent Doc's time on the dirt track. It should be noted that, unlike many other dirty cars in the diecast line, like the Cars 1 Dirt Track McQueen, this Doc doesn't have matte paint and keeps his original glossy finish. Since the release of Cars 3, Dirt Track Fabulous Hudson Hornet has been the main Hudson Hornet diecast variant released, and as I said earlier, we haven't seen the original Hudson Hornet or the pit crew member variant return. It's just been this guy, who's been released nearly every year since the release of Cars 3, oftentimes in 2-packs or multi-packs with other cars from his flashback scene. In 2020, we received a second variant of Doc based on Cars 3, Fabulous Hudson Hornet with Tire, based on a brief scene where we see Doc goofing around with McQueen, balancing a bunch of things on his hood before they all fall down, leaving a tire stuck on his hood ornament. The tire itself is a non-removable soft plastic piece attached to Doc's hood. Other than that, he's a pretty standard Fabulous Hudson Hornet diecast. Notably, he's the first version of the Hudson Hornet in years to not have the additional dirt detailing on him. And he also has a slightly different facial expression than usual, with a bit more of a smile molded into his grill, which is a really nice touch. It fits with the scene, and it's a rarity to get Docs with different faces. In 2022, we would receive a new Doc Hudson color changer, for the first time ever getting a color changer for the Fabulous Hudson Hornet. This variant of Doc changed from red in warm water to blue in cold water. It's pretty cool to see Doc change to red, kinda trippy seeing him get Lightning McQueen's primary color. 2023 would mark a pretty special occasion for Doc diecasts, as he was one of only 6 characters chosen to get a Disney 100 variant. To celebrate 100 years of Disney, in the 2023 mainline, 6 special Cars diecasts were released with beautiful platinum silver paint, making them look almost statuesque with the same consistent silver color on every part of them, including their wheels and windows. But each character was also given a bit of color representing an iconic part of their design and the color that they typically are. In the case of Doc, he received the Fabulous Hudson Hornet writing on his sides in a shade of blue, representing his typical blue livery. Before this, Doc had never really gotten a special edition item like this, so it was really cool to see that he was one of the 6 characters they decided to include in this line. He was released as a single. Unfortunately, he was the only car missing from the Disney 100 5-pack. And finally, in 2024, we received a new variant of the Fabulous Hudson Hornet color changer, this time going from a greenish yellow in warm water to blue in cold water. This is currently the final new Doc variant for the time being. And there you have it, guys, the full history of every single Doc Hudson diecast as of April of 2025. While we may not get new variants of this character often these days, it's always a treat to see when Mattel, Disney, and Pixar bring us a brand new version of the iconic, fabulous Hudson Hornet. Thank you all so much for watching another episode of Diecast History, and tune in next time for a very exciting episode. I can't wait for the next one, guys, because we're going to be covering Luigi and Guido, part 1 of 2. See you guys next time. Bye now.